All right. So what year is it?
Right now?
Yeah.
2022,
Or what's the date?
December 27, 2022.
And what was your full name when you were that's Panther? What was your full name when you were born?
Helen Lucille Dillon, according to my daddy, and Helen Lucille Adams, according to my mother.
Okay. And so what do you want to describe why there is a difference in what your name is based off of your mother's and your father? Kind of elaborate on that.
Okay. When I was born, my mother was married to my sister Honey's daddy, Mr. Gilbert John Adams, but they were separated. And she met my daddy, who was married to his wife, Marie Campbell Dillon. And somehow they became friendly and became involved. And my mother got pregnant with me. So when I was born, she named me Adams on my birth certificate and named her husband, who was presumed to be my father, as my father. However, shortly thereafter, my daddy took me to church to get baptized, and he named me Helen Lucille Dillon because his name was Charlie Dillon. And he named my mother as my mother, and he named himself as my daddy. So my two certificates have two different daddies and last names. And my mother wanted to marry my daddy, but he wouldn't divorce his wife. So she left Pennsylvania and came to California and changed my name because I went to school in Pennsylvania as Lucille Dillon. When I got to California, I became Lucille Adams.
What age did you remain in Pennsylvania until? How old were you when you came to California?
Well, when I left Pennsylvania, I was still 7 years old. But when we arrived in Arizona on our way to California, it was August 27th. And my mother said, "Today's your birthday." So I turned 8 years old in Arizona. I got to California and started the third grade at St. Bernard's Catholic School in about 1953, give or take. 8 years old. And did I answer your question?
What city were you born in, and what city and state? What's the name of the city?
Altoona, Pennsylvania,
And what year was it?
1943.
And what's the name of your father?
Charles Vincent Dillon, known as Charlie.
Okay. And your mother's name, her full name is?
Helen Lucille King. And then she became Adams. And then she became Hissner. And then she became Westby. And then she had my sister Ann with yet another fellow named Mr. Moyer.
When you came to California, you went to an elementary school. What was the name of that elementary school?
St. Bernard's Catholic School,
What city was that in?
Bellflower, California.
Bellflower.
And my sister Honey got married to my brother-in-law Don in St. Bernard's Catholic Church.
And that school goes up to what grade?
8th grade.
And then you remained in that school through 8th grade?
No, I only went 3rd and 4th grade, and then my mother bought a house, and she transferred me to St. Athanasius Elementary School in the middle of the 4th grade, and I went until I graduated.
What city was that school in?
Long Beach, California.
Okay. So then you went there through 8th grade.
I did, and graduated.
And then you started attending high school.
St. Anthony's Girls High School.
Okay, and what city is that in?
Long Beach, California.
Okay. And then so you went 9th through 12th grade
Yes,
from St. Anthony's. What year did you graduate?
1961.
And that's the school that you were attending when you met my father.
Your daddy,
So
yes.
tell me what's his name?
Robert Leroy Trujillo.
Okay, and then what grade were you in when you met him?
I think junior, if not junior, senior, but I'm thinking junior.
And tell me, there's a story about the first time that you went out and you were going to
Yes.
go out with somebody else or something.
I
and
was.
Tell me that story.
My mother had a neighbor who left Long Beach and moved to Rossmore. And my mother talked to her and said, oh yeah, my daughter's at St. Anthony's High School and she's gonna go to the backwards dance where the girl invites the boy. And I was gonna invite that woman's son. But he had a date.
What was his name?
Brother Joseph Connell.
Well, he wasn't a brother at the time.
No, he was
his
just
name,
a high school.
His name was Joseph.
Joseph Connell.
Okay, so it was already kind of arranged that you were going to go to the dance with him. However,
He said that he had a date, but he had a friend who didn't have a date, and he says, if you could meet my friend, then we could all go together. Would that be okay? And I said, oh, that sounds fine. And he says, okay, come after school, come down the stairs. And there was your daddy standing. I met him. We became friends. We went to the dance, and it was a penny a pound. It was a backwards dance where the girl paid for the admission to the dance based on her date's weight. And your daddy was 118 pounds, so I paid $1.18.
okay.
And I liked your daddy, and he was nice. He was polite.
And that was in what grade?
I think a junior. I could be wrong. It could be a senior, but I'm thinking it's a junior. And that would be 16 or 17.
Okay.
I'm not for
And
sure.
He drove a car.
He drove a pink Oldsmobile.
Okay.
That was your grandma's car, and she let him drive that car.
Okay. So you went to you eventually graduated from St. Anthony
I did.
High School.
I did.
And then talk to me more about, so after St. Anthony High School, what other schools have you attended?
Long Beach City College, Cal State University Long Beach, LA Harbor College, and then 4 years at Long Beach City College, and I took horticulture all 4 years.
Okay. So besides horticulture, what were some of the other studies that you took classes in?
Trigonometry,
Okay. Mathematics.
yes.
Of them that you studied after high school, what were the subjects that you enjoyed the most?
Horticulture.
Horticulture. Okay. So with horticulture, tell me something that you did where you used what you learned and put it to use.
Well, Mr. Allen, who was our neighbor in Long Beach, he was my professor for horticulture. He taught me about trees and the love of trees. But I think what I loved the most was he was very upfront. If you want to get an A in my class, you have to bring this many leaves and identify the leaves and tell me the name of the tree. And if you do this many, you get an A. If you do that many, you get a B. And I just thought, okay, you told me, how do I get an A? Because that was my goal, to get an A. And so I learned to love trees and how easy they were to plant, and then they grew. And I just absolutely love trees. And
Okay.
every house I ever owned, I planted too many trees. And the house that I'm living in right now, at one point, I had 55 trees on my property
All right.
that I planted all myself.
Talk to me a little. So you were from Altoona, Pennsylvania.
Yes.
When was the last time you were in Altoona, Pennsylvania?
After your daddy gave me my engagement ring, I went there, so that had to be maybe 1961. I went there in November, and then I came back to California in January, so that would have been 1962. So that was the last time I was in Pennsylvania, and then my daddy passed away after that.
So last time you were in Pennsylvania was during the winter time.
It was snowing the day I arrived, right after Thanksgiving, and then that was November, and then I came back home to California. I want to say February or March, I'm not really sure, but the day I left to go to the airport, it was snowing.
So when you go to Pennsylvania to visit your dad, where would you stay? What
Upstairs in one of the bedrooms.
So you would go to his house.
Yes.
And it was a 2-story home.
It was
How many bedrooms did it have?
3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom and a big dining room.
All the bedrooms were upstairs?
All the bedrooms were upstairs.
And then downstairs was the kitchen.
The dining room, the living room, and my baby grand piano.
And then that house was, how long did your dad live in that house?
I don't know for sure, but I bet it's on the ancestry census where I have for the 1950s, and it might show 1940. I don't really know when he moved there. I don't know when he bought it.
What did your dad do for a living?
My mother said he was a horologist, but I knew him to be a jeweler, and he not only sold watches and rings and necklaces, but he also did a little, maybe you call it a pawn shop. You need to borrow money. I like your necklace. You give me your necklace, I'll give you the money. And when you bring the money back, you'll get your necklace. Otherwise, I'm gonna sell it.
What is a horologist?
It's a watchmaker, to my understanding. Seth will have to Google it.
So when you would go visit your dad, besides his house, did he have other dwellings?
He did. And by the
what were
way,
those
I only
dwellings?
ever visited him once. When I left as a 7-year-old, I came back as a high school graduate, and that was the only time I ever visited. When I came back to California, he passed away. Now, tell me the question again.
So besides the house,
Oh,
the 2-story house,
what
were
other
there
houses?
other dwellings that he had on his property, and describe the property to me?
Well, the property was a farm, and he had our main family dwelling, and then across the street he had the barn with the cows and the horses and the other farm animals. And then on our property he was building in the 1960s another home, and I walked up across from the barn to look at it. I can't recall if I ever went in or how much of it was built. And that's all I know about that home. The inside of the family home, I can tell you every room in the house and where the furniture was. Then we had a cabin, where we would drive, and it was called Racetown. And then you go across the river, and you could get up on the rocks and jump in the water and play and swim.
Any idea what the name of that river would be?
Well, I know it was called Racetown. That's the name. Well, you'd have to Google Racetown, and then might show the name of the river. Or maybe that is the name of the river.
So you said that your dad had a farm.
Yes.
That would indicate that he grew crops of some sort. What were some of those crops?
Hold that thought. And I forgot to tell you about another home that he owned at 812 South Kettle Street, that he let my mother live in it with me and my 2 other sisters with 2 other daddies. And then I guess he got the idea I could rent that out and make money and bring my child and her mother and her other siblings all home to the farm, and we would all live there under one roof. And then he would rent that other house on Kettle Street out.
What year was that?
I was little, I was about maybe 3 years old, because I remember him carrying me down the stairs on Kettle Street to move to go to the farm. So
Okay.
I lived there from maybe age 3 to about age 7 in August.
So back to the farm. For it to be a farm, usually someone
Oh,
would need to
He had
grow
an
something.
orchard. He had an orchard. And after school, I could come home and go out in the orchard and pick whatever was growing and eat it.
What was it? What was growing?
Pears, apples, peaches, and rhubarb. But nobody told me which part of the rhubarb is poison. But for some reason, I got lucky. And when I brought the rhubarb in, and I would help Marie, that was my daddy's wife, cut it up, for maybe she knew which was poison, but here we are still alive.
Okay.
So we
So
grew
he grew
rhubarb.
pears and
Fruit?
on the orchard, from the orchard,
Yes.
but rhubarb doesn't grow from a tree.
No, that
So
grew
does
in
he
the
grow
ground.
other vegetables, things that needed harvesting, crops?
I'm not sure that I remember.
He had farm animals.
He did. And I
Yeah.
remember he took the chickens and he would drag the water for the chickens on the back of his tractor. It's not as good as your tractor, but he'd be proud of you, Charlie. But he would drag the water up there and the chickens would follow us up there.
So he had a tractor.
He had a tractor, and then I think you call them free range when they're out just roaming around, and
The chickens.
the chickens, yes.
Okay.
And what else do you want to know? And he had cattle, and I remember they would go get a chicken in the morning, and that was dinner for supper.
Okay.
What else?
So let's see. So you came to California, and you graduated from St. Anthony. Where was the first house that you bought?
13863 East Mansa Drive, La Mirada, California.
What size house was that?
I don't know square feet, but it had 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, a kitchen, a living room, and a fireplace.
How old were you when you bought that?
Oh, you were little, and I don't know, was Angie born yet, or did I bring her home from the hospital? So that had to be, she's born in November of 1964. So I was early 20s. Your daddy and I were both early 20s when we bought that house.
Okay. What kind of car did you guys have?
Your daddy got a Chevrolet from Aunt Celia. I think that's your grandma's sister-in-law, sister.
Yeah.
Because Uncle Ernie passed away and Aunt Celia couldn't drive. So that was one of our cars. We had a van that had several, the driver, the engine, the passenger, and then a second row and a third row of seats.
Okay.
And I remember going to Tijuana, Mexico in that van.
So what kind of car do you drive now?
A Jeep,
What year is it?
2010.
What kind of transmission does it have? Is it automatic or manual?
Oh, it's a manual.
Is it 4-wheel drive or 2-wheel drive?
It's 4-wheel drive.
And you know that they do make 2-wheel drive Jeeps, which I never knew that they did until
I don't.
when we first started looking for a Jeep for you. The first Jeep that we looked at was 2-wheel drive, that was the day that I learned that Jeep made a Wrangler that was
I
not
don't think
4-wheel
I
drive.
knew that.
Yeah. So before the Jeep, what kind of car did you drive? For this Jeep, this is a Jeep Wrangler. What did you drive
Oh,
before
I
that?
had a Jeep Comanche,
Okay, and what year was that?
about an 87 or 8.
What did you drive before the Jeep Comanche? What kind of car?
I don't know. Give me 3 suggestions and I'll pick it.
Lincoln.
Yeah, I had a Lincoln.
Okay.
Oh, I had 2 Lincolns.
All right, what was the Lincoln that you had right before the Jeep Comanche?
A town car.
Lincoln Town Car. What do you remember what year that was?
Not really.
What was the car that you had before the Lincoln Town Car?
A Lincoln Continental.
Okay. Do you remember what year that was?
Not
No.
really.
Okay. Where did you work when you had your Lincoln?
McDonnell Douglas.
And what city was that?
I'm thinking Long Beach, but it could be Lakewood. But the intersection was Lakewood Boulevard. And I guess I'm confused because my front door is Lakewood, but my wall is Long Beach.
Which plant were you at for
At-
McDonnell Douglas?
I think the Long Beach facility
Okay.
by the Darty Field.
What are the some of the products that were being built at the time that you
Oh,
worked
the
there?
MD-80, the MD-11, the C-17, and the T-45.
Okay. What's the C-17?
Oh, that's a cargo plane.
Okay.
And I got to fly in it.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Generally, McDonnell Douglas does not allow you to bring cameras onto the plant. However, for that day, you were allowed to bring a camera and take pictures of your flight. So I did. And then I got them developed and I put them in a little book and I offered to make prints. I took all kinds of pictures of people that were saying, oh, I built this part of the airplane, or look, here's my stamp on it, or whatever. And when I made prints, I sold them for a huge profit because, people, almost nobody took a camera, but I did. And I sold the prints and I made some good money.
Okay. All right. So you flew on one of the products that you built. Were you apprehensive about that, or did you have confidence that it was going to take off and land with no issues?
I thought it was going to take off and land without any problems.
When you took off in that plane, what airport did you take off from?
From the Long Beach. And something interesting about that flight, we were told that a C-17 can get off of the ground from the time you put the pedal to the metal till it leaves the ground is 10 seconds. And all the other commercial flights that I've ever been on, it takes at least 30 seconds from the time he puts the pedal to the metal till you can get that plane off the ground. And also it'll land on a dime.
So what airport did you land at?
Oh, we flew just from Long Beach to Monterey and then came back to Long Beach.
Okay, so you took off in Long Beach Airport, landed back in Long. How long did that flight take about? Do you remember?
I can't remember. I just know that I was on the clock and they were trying to get us on the plane and get the flight and get us back so that we could clock out at the end of the day, and we were getting paid for that. But it took a little longer, and as I recall, we were going to get paid until we hit the time clock and got out. So we got a few dollars
Okay.
in addition to getting paid for building it.
Okay. And so were there any unexpected occurrences during that flight, or did it go smoothly as expected?
It was perfect.
Okay, no, that's always good. You don't
Yeah.
like panels falling off of planes, or wheels falling off, or bolts
No.
unthreading,
No,
or
it was
the
perfect.
pilot going oops or something like that. So that didn't happen.
No,
It
it was perfect. And I could go up into the airport, into the cockpit, and I just remember the C-17 was huge, and then the bathroom, my closet is bigger than that bathroom.
So, but typically C-17 is used to move cargo,
Yes.
not passengers. But do they have seats that fold out into the internal portions of it
On
that-
either side of the airplane.
for troops to sit in, maybe?
you can fold it down, and then there's something that you, when you get ready to take off, I have a picture
Harness,
of it.
that harness that you
Yes,
wear,
and
restraint system.
and you can hold on to it. And I have a picture of a lot of people that were on there, and of course they bought the picture.
Okay.
But yes, I enjoyed it. By any chance, does our videographer slash assistant want to put his arm down and take a break?
No, it's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So let's see. Let me ask you some different questions.
Okay.
Then. So, when was the last time you were involved in a motor vehicle accident? Roughly, how many years ago was it?
Oh, now I remember. It was in the Jeep Comanche, and I was on my way to get smogged, I believe. And I had like a 2-mile drive. And I'm driving west on Carson Street. There's a car in front of me, and then there's a couple trying to cross Carson Street with a dog on the leash. And the car in front of me decides to slam on their brakes and make a U-turn, and it was not a place to make a U-turn. And I thought, where is that dog? Am I going to hit the dog? And I hit the car in front of me when he slammed on the brakes. And the issue was about the dog on the leash jaywalking, which if they had waited 20 years, now you can jaywalk and it's not against the law as long as you don't cause an accident. But that's the last accident I was in.
And how long ago was that?
I don't
Well,
have,
your Jeep is a 2010, so it was.
I didn't have the,
You've had the. How long have you had your Jeep? Your Wrangler.
oh, about 2015. So
Okay,
it was before then,
okay.
before 2015.
All right. So that was the last accident that you were in. Did you sustain any injuries as a result of it?
No.
No. Okay, that's good.
And the guy I hit got out and walked around,
That's
and
fine.
he was fine.
Okay.
But his car, oh my God, it was like a can that you just crush it up.
So he had a single-use vehicle,
Yes, he did.
first bump, and it's no longer any good.
But he
So-
wasn't hurt.
So, right now we're in your house. Tell me about your house. What year was your home built?
About 1950,
How many bedrooms?
maybe
is it?
52, but about 1950.
How many bedrooms?
2 bedrooms,
How many bath?
1 bathroom,
What? How many car garage?
2-car garage.
Okay. And what city is it in?
This is Lakewood.
Okay.
And
What-
I have a double lot, by the way, because all of the other 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom homes on my side of the street have 5,500 square feet lots, but I have a double lot.
Okay. And then, what house did you have before this house?
Big Bear Lake,
And what size house? How many bedroom was that house?
are you talking about the first house or the second house?
Well, you told me the one that you were talking about.
Okay. Well, when I bought this house, I bought another house, and then I bought another house. So let's go with the house that I bought on Sand Canyon Road, 43433 Sand Canyon Road, Big Bear Lake, 92315.
How many bedrooms did that house have?
3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a nice dining room, a nice fireplace.
How long did you live in that house?
I had to live in it 2 years because I couldn't sell it as my primary residence because it was a vacation home, because I had this home and that home.
Okay. So then tell me about the other home that you were referring to.
Oh, that's on Encino, 42810 Encino Road. And that's the one that if you look across the street in between, you're gonna see the golf course, you're gonna see Bear Mountain, and you're gonna see Snow Summit. And that was Encino Road. And that had also 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. And
Oh.
then
How long did you live in that house?
it seemed like 4 or 5 years. Ballpark, I don't know for sure.
Okay. And tell me about another house that you had in Long Beach.
34 East 52nd Street and 5166 East 25th Street, both in Long Beach.
Okay, what size house was the latter?
The latter was 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, and it was a corner lot. And the planes went over just before they touched down at the airport. And I kind of recall you throwing tennis balls at the Catalina planes because they were so low.
What? Tell me about the other house in Long Beach that you spoke of.
That was, I'm gonna say 1968 or 9, and it had it was very, very, very small, and it probably was built in the 1910s, and it had 2 bedrooms and 1 bath and a very small living room and a very, very small kitchen and a very, 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 very small backyard.
Okay. Well, so right now we're at 31 minutes, which is kind of a long video. I could probably cut some stuff out, just to make it shorter, but I think I got some pretty good